Unlike Gettysburg, one of the major differences is at Gettysburg, the two Army commanders were not on the field at the beginning of the fight. There was no planning. The two armies just collided. At Antietam, both Army commanders are in place by the afternoon of the 15th. So McClellan, who's on the offensive, has time to plan what the attack strategy is going to be. And his attack is going to be from the north. He talks about twice in his reports, I'm going to attack from the north early in the morning. I'm going to attack Lee's left flank. He says, then I'm going to launch another attack to the south along the lower bridge. And he says, if either of those attacks is successful, I'm going to launch an attack right down his middle. Boonesboro Pike, right now, you don't attack the enemy's middle unless you weaken the flanks.
Right.
So that's the plan. And so he carries that out. Hooker knows he's going to be attacking the left flank. The attack's supposed to occur the troops are supposed to start moving about 5:30 or so in the morning and engage through the cornfield. And Hooker can see his objective, which is the Dunker Church. It has no strategic value. He can see it.
It's a landmark.
Yeah. Now, there's high ground there. So he wants the high ground, but he can say, aim for that church, which nobody thought was a church. If you go, it looks like a schoolhouse.
Yeah.
There's no crosses or anything. And it's a good plan. He's going to take 6 of his brigades, figure about 6,000 guys, 3 of them under James Ricketts, who was desperately wounded at First Manassas, and he's going to take 3 of Doubleday's brigades, including the Iron Brigade.
And Doubleday is a new division commander just recently, right? Was he?
Yes.
He on South Mountain.
Mountain. And that's an interesting situation because it was King's division first. And Rufus King, is a horrible epileptic. And when he's under stress, he has an epileptic fit. And imagine you're in battle and your commander is laying on the ground shaking. So I think his name, John Hatch, is going to take over. Nobody liked Hatch, by the way. And Hatch is going to get himself wounded at Frosttown Plateau. And then Doubleday, who was a brigade commander, is going to ascend to become division commander. So, yeah, this is his first rodeo, so to speak. And so you're going to have 3 brigades from each of these divisions coming down. Meade is going to be reserve. He's got Truman Seymour's brigade is already around the East Woods. And his other 2 brigades, he's going to leave them behind at the North Woods. They're in reserve. You always need a reserve.
Yeah, of course.
And that's what's supposed to happen. And on the Confederate side, you have essentially those 2 brigades on the east side of Hagerstown Pike, and that is Marcellus Douglas, who became Gordon's brigade at Gettysburg, and you have Walker's brigade, which doesn't exist at Gettysburg. It's been ripped apart. And then on the other side of the road, you have the Stonewall Division, and that has only about 2,000 guys. It's been beaten up pretty well under John R. Jones. And then in the West Woods, you've got about 4,000 Confederates who are reinforcements. Two of the brigades are from Hood's division, who are supposed to be eating.
Mm-hmm.
And the other 2 are from Lawton's brigade, a division, which, when I talk about Marcellus Douglas and Walker, they're part of Alexander Lawton's division.
Okay.
So it's Jubal Early and Harry Hayes is in the West Woods. So he's got Jackson has a reserve, as does Hooker. And Hooker has the 12th Corps just sort of hanging out there. And then he's got this front line.
I will say one thing that you learn really quickly in the military is things never go according to plan.
Never do.
You make a plan just to be able to have a starting point, and
Indeed.
then you go from there.
Indeed.
So how does the battle actually kick
Oh,
off?
it's a horrible situation if you're Hooker. Doubleday's division is going to get caught up, number 1, around the David Miller house. There are gardens, there are fences that's going to break up his formations, but also across the Hagerstown Pike is Nicodemus Heights. And Nicodemus Heights, Jeb Stewart has brought up probably about 15 cannon in the middle of the night. Nobody knew they were there. And where the New York Monument is, where the visitor center is, high ground, you got 19 cannon under Stephen Lee. And imagine you're coming through and you get caught in a crossfire. These 19 guns, these 15 guns, it was pretty bad.
Being a member of the Antietam Institute, we were talking about this before the show,
Mhm.
but I got a chance to go on the excursion out to Nicodemus Heights.
Right.
It's unbelievable how good that position is when you get over there. You can't really see it from.
No, because the trees have grown up so much. But there were no trees then.
But you go over there, you can see the top. You can see everything. You can see the top of the Poffenberger farm, the Miller house.
But imagine none of those trees were there
right
at the time. I mean, it was wide open.
Just it would have been. It would if you were in Doubleday's division, that would have been miserable.
That, and also it forces Doubleday. Doubleday actually had 4 brigades. He's going to send Hoffman's brigade. He's going to keep it behind, just to watch those guns on Nicodemus Heights. And there were Confederate infantry supports, so they're going to be not charging. So he loses the impact of having another brigade. So they get hung up, and then you have in Ricketts' division, you have George Hartsuff's brigade. And George Hartsuff I think he was a West Pointer. He's an experienced guy. He decides before he's going to launch his attack, he's going to ride forward and he's going to reconnoiter. And he gets hit by, I think it's probably a small arms fire. He's wounded in the hip. And as you know, it takes a while to find the second in command.
Yeah, there's no radios.
Yeah.
No. So they got to find the second in command. Second in command has to figure out what's going on. So that's going to take time. That's going to delay that attack. And then you've got William Christian, who's an interesting guy. Not a West Pointer. I think he was an attorney before the war. Imagine you're coming down through these open fields and you get hit in this crossfire. And you're seeing your men falling right and left, and you're not really experienced as a brigade commander. And you panic. And you say, okay, don't go forward. Go to the left. And they go to the left. And they still get plastered. No. Let's go in a different direction. And next thing the men know, they see their commander galloping to the rear on his horse. He literally had a nervous breakdown right in the middle of the battle.
Oh, no.
They will find he goes home. Later on, he'll actually be on his porch, on the railing of the porch, riding it like it's a horse, commanding his men into battle. So it's going to take time for that unit to find its second in command. So what that means is only one brigade under Abram Duryea is going to be coming through, not 6,000 guys. You're going to have only one. And imagine how you feel if you're Abram Duryea, where you've been told 5 others are going to be coming with you. You're all by yourself.
You're probably feeling super exposed
Very much so.
and vulnerable.
And so he's coming through the cornfield.
That would not be a position I would want to find myself in.
No. So he's coming through the cornfield, and there's a snake fence right at the southern end of it, and the men stop there. They're going to get over it, and they see nothing in front of them except their objective, the Dunker Church. And all of a sudden, a line of Confederates, 1,000 men, stand up almost like devils from the grate below,
Wow.
level their rifles, and fire. And what had happened was Marcellus Douglas had told his Georgia boys, lie down, I'm going to watch. And when those Yankees get to that fence, I'm going to order you to stand up and fire. But don't fire randomly. Fire at their belt buckles. I don't want you firing too high or too low.
Smart commander.
Very much
Yeah.
so. And they will decimate this unit. But these are veterans, and they're going to fire back. In fact, some of them will literally some of the regiments will jump over the fence and attack Douglas's men before they're pushed back.
Wow.
And what's interesting in the Civil War, and it's I think it's different than modern warfare, is very seldom did they bring up additional ammunition. So here's Durier's men. They've been firing for about 20, 25 minutes, and they're running out of ammunition. What happens is you replace in a unit. Rather than bring up boxes of ammunition, you simply say, pull back, we're going to bring up somebody else. Well, what happens is he's running out of ammunition. He's lost over a third of his men, and he's very unhappy about the whole thing. And then East Woods, remember Truman Seymour's men are in the East Woods. Some of those units got really confused. The 5th Pennsylvania Reserves got really confused because they saw, I think it was the 2nd, was pulling back. They were pulled back. They thought everybody's supposed to withdraw. Anyway, Durier sees these legs going through the East Woods, and he says, I think those are rebels.
They're flanking me.
I think they're going to come around and try to surround us. Let's get the heck out of here. And he's not real happy anyway.
Yeah.
And so as he's withdrawing, and this is now they start engaging about 6 in the morning. About 6:30, they're pulling back. And just as they're pulling back, guess who's coming up? The rest of those 5,000 guys are coming up through the cornfield. And Ricketts' men will be coming into the East Woods and to the eastern part of the cornfield. And Doubleday's men are coming in along Hagerstown Pike and the western part of the cornfield. And then something happens that changes the dynamics of the battle totally. And for whatever reason, whether it's J.R. Jones's Stonewall Division has skirmishers by the barn, by the David Miller barn, or whether they saw J.R. Jones's men on the other side, the west side of Hagerstown Pike, Doubleday will split his division in half. He's going to split the Iron Brigade in half. 2 of the regiments, the 2nd Wisconsin, the 6th Wisconsin, will continue marching into the cornfield. The other 2, the 5th Wisconsin and the 19th Indiana, will then advance on the opposite side. And
along with Marcina Patrick's over there too, right?
Patrick is going to follow on the opposite side, and Walter Phelps is going to be on the cornfield side. And they're going to be advancing. And what happens is they will, make a long story short, you've got the Stonewall Division is in 2 lines. The Yankees, who are on the west side of Hagerstown Pike, they will hit the rebel line on an angle. They're going to flank them, and they're going to drive it back. And what happens then, it's fascinating. They stop. This is Doubleday's men on that side. And they go back into the woods, and they're going to rest. On the other side, the half that's coming through the cornfield, so it's about 25 acres, they have driven Douglas's men away. They're heading toward their objective. There's nobody in front of them. All they see are these rebels who are running from Douglas's men, heading back, and there they see their objective, and they are excited. So here comes half of the Iron Brigade, and Phelps's brigade is behind them, and they're heading toward the objective, the high ground. They're going to make it. And Rufus Dawes.
His memoir.
His memoirs are wonderful. Great quotes. Well, remember, the Stonewall Division is in 2 lines. That second line, which is around where the Philadelphia Brigade Monument is today, will see these Yankees coming toward, heading toward their right flank. And so Stark, who's now in command of the division, he will bring his 2 brigades that's left around, and he'll face them. So imagine they're going to form perpendicular will be these 2 Confederate brigades from J.R. Jones's division, now commanded by William Stark. They're going to fire in the flank. What does the Iron Brigade do? They're going to turn with Phelps, and they're going to face them. And the 2 sides are firing at each other on either side of Hagerstown Pike.
Wow.
And guess what happens? Those two other regiments from the Iron Brigade that had retreated or had headed back along with Patrick, they're going to come back and they're going to hit them in the flank and rear. And they bring up Campbell's battery and James Campbell, and Campbell will hit them also in the flank. And that line just disintegrates.
I mean, from the look on the map, it almost looks like they get sandwiched between the Iron
do.
Brigade.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
That would be devastating.
William Stark is going to get himself killed. So he's gone. That unit is finished. And guess what? Those Yanks on the west side, along Iron Brigade, Patrick's Brigade, they go back. They're going to be making coffee. They're going to be taking it easy. And in the meantime, here comes the 2nd and the 6th Wisconsin. Phelps, they see the objective, and all of a sudden, this line of rebel gray, as Dawes puts it, is going to march up Smoketown Road from behind the church. They will turn and they fire. And as he puts it, it's like a scythe running through our line. Now save who can. It's every man for himself as they run back toward the cornfield.